Thank you so much, EDC, for the introduction. And hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to our distinguished guests, delegates, and our respected fellow speakers, those who have joined from India, East Africa, Nigeria, and all. And I'm very thankful to the YCAF for organizing this peaceful event. And first of all, I would like to pay my gratitude to Ambassador Edith Zakaria for inviting me and recognizing my strength and skills and giving me this platform to share my thoughts and views with all of you. Today we all are here with same concern, motive and agenda to discuss the sustainability of peace around the world. No matter that we all are here from different countries, race, religion, gender, but our aim and our vision should be far bigger, and it should come first above all of these. And we must understand that these are just the external identities. We all are same, we are one, and above most, we are human. So this realization leads us towards the path of peace. If we talk about peace, what is peace? According to me, or in my belief, we can say, peace is when people are able to resolve their conflicts without any violence and can work together to improve their quality of their life, we can say. So peace has two types. We all are aware about that. That is internal and external peace. Internal peace, you can say, it is related to your mind and soul, and external peace, it could be positive and negative both. I'm just going to put one famous saying from Lao Tzu that is very important to understand how internal peace influences external peace. So if there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nation. If there is to be peace in the nation, there must be peace in the cities. If there must be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. And if there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. And if there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. So we can see here very clearly that how internal peace influences external peace. And also we have a famous statement from UNESCO that since war begins in the minds of men, it is the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. And if you talk about our modern times, so we can see very clearly that non-violent methods of action is totally based on the philosophy of non-violence, because it is a powerful tool for the social protest and revolutionary social and political change, you can say. There are so many examples we have. I am going to put some of examples so you can relate and you can understand very well that in India, Mahatma Gandhi led a decades-long non-violent struggle against British rule in India, and eventually it helped India to win its independence in 1947. And Martin Luther King, also inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's non-violent activities and methods, and he also adopted his non-violent methods in the struggle to win civil rights for African Americans. So as the theme for the International Peace Day, which was given by Edith Zakaria, that is the path to the sustainable peace building, the fact, the fantasy, the policy, and the way forward. But before discussing how we can move to the path for sustaining peace and to build the peace, let us start by addressing two critical questions, that because we need to understand these questions, then only we can build the peace and we can create the peaceful society. So what is peace building? The first question is, and why it is very important for young people to have them, that is the second question. So if we talk about the peace building, so this term was brought in the international attention in approximately 1992 when our former UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali has announced his book An Agenda for Peace. So this peace building is a long-term and collaborative process. Peace building it seeks to address the underlying causes of conflict, helping people to resolve their differences peacefully and lay the foundations to prevent future violence. We can say that. And as we all know that violence affects everyone in this world. It affects everyone. So around a quarter of all people live in countries are affected by the conflicts and violence. Over 68 million people alive today have been forced to flee their homes. This is the highest data which we have after Second World War, and conflicts of 80% of humanitarian needs. Conflict drives 80% humanitarian needs. And it is already predicted by 2030, that is 2030, the half of the world's poorest people will be living in conflict-affected places. So we have to think, and it is the time that we must think differently and act so and invest more in peace building. Because making peace ultimately requires the firm commitment and extraordinary courage on the part of all sides we can take to ensure a permanent end to violence. Now, if we say transforming relationship also key to putting an end to violence, peace building is all about dealing with the reason why people fight in the first place and supporting societies to manage their differences and conflicts without resorting to violence. The world is unfortunately very less peaceful today than at any time in the last decade. Now we move to our second question. Youths are most prone to radicalization and violent extremism, but at the other end, we can see they are also the path for the solution to prevent violent extremism. We all need to do a better job to engage them. We can engage them, and we can see youth have the potential. Youth have the potential to create a better world. And network of peace builders and activists confronting violent extremism will do more than any government program, we can say. It is a fundamental threat, we all know, to all the countries and its people, and the international community's response will be only effective through coordination and multilateral action. And undoubtedly, security also measures and even military actions may be necessary to address the real threats posed by the violent extremists. So, youth have the potential, we can see very clearly, to create a world with peace. Together, we can co-create the loving and liberated world of peace and partnership with all lives and end domination and violence, and become what I like to call Homo Ahimsa, the non-violent human. May this book, Homo Ahimsa, be your companion guide on this important, exciting and sacred journey. As we all know very well that peace is the hope of every nation, the desire of every beating heart, the promise of every politician, the pulse of every religious tradition, and the goal of every prayer. So the battle for peace is inside of each of us and will never go away. We must aware about this. And I'm going to put some facts. You can relate this fact how we are suffering why we are not able to create the peace in the world. So by seeing this fact, you can understand when you see from 2011 to 2019 data, the number of riots, general strikes and anti-governmental demonstration around the world increased by 244%. Can you imagine that? This is a very high rate. And if you talk about the global impact of violence, then the global impact of violence was approximately $14.5 trillion PPP in 2019, that is purchasing power parity, which is equivalent to 10.6% of global GDP. So I'm going to tell you something about, I told earlier that external peace, which is related to negative, could be negative and positive both. So since 2008, IEP, that is Institute of Economic and Peace, has produced the Global Peace Index, the world's leading measures for global peacefulness. It has also empirically developed the Positive Peace Index, which measures the attitude, institutions and structure that create a sustained, peaceful societies. And it also provides guidance on the future peacefulness of countries, their resilience, which is in COVID-19 era is increasingly important, and long-term prospects for recovery. It also measures the level of socio-economic development of society, and it gauges its resilience prospects for economic development. If we see that we have very big list of crises and conflicts around the world, locally and globally. So I'm just going to put some conflicts like economic crisis, you can see at global level, local level, economic crisis, communal violence, level of food security, diseases such as COVID-19, earlier it was Ebola, flood, political instability, financial crisis. And if you talk about the major crises in the world, you can see war, natural disaster, climate change, global warming, terrorism, and so many things are there. Okay, I think my time is about to up. I will take only two more minutes for winding up. I'm about to end my speech. Okay, so if you talk about the society cause, what is the cause of society's violence, cause of the violence in our society? It is not about only Indian society, it is the problem of all societies. We have ignorance among the youth, lack of good governance, lack of religious knowledge, use of alcohol and drugs has been long associated with the risk of youth violence, high rate of unemployment and poverty issues are there. And according to me, as sir also, Mutius sir is taking name media, that is, according to me also, media is the one main source of violence in our society, because it plays very important role towards the youth and towards our generation, upcoming generation. So they can change easily our youth generation's mind. So this is the main issue. So at last, I would like to wind up with my speech with the quotation only that from Eleanor Roosevelt. It is not enough to talk about peace only. One must believe in it, and it is not enough to believe in it. One must work at it. So I hope we will work together for peace, and inshallah, definitely we will achieve our goal, and we will do far better for our community and society. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you so much.